Okay.
There's 7 altogether. There's one on the way.
No, okay, we will call this land and water conservation meeting to order. It is a few minutes after 8:30 on Tuesday, the 3rd of September, 2024. This meeting and all the meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin statutes so that the citizenry may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Roll call will indicate that all members are present. And it's a beautiful day outside. And you have in front of you for your consideration the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion on the agenda? I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion's carried. And then you also had for your pleasure the minutes from the August 6th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. A lot of minutes there, but looked pretty good. Right? Any other discussion on the minutes? Otherwise, I'll call the question.
The second time I had to watch the video to get it straight. Normally I don't do that.
Well, I even read them all the way through the other night, so. I'll call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried. And now public comment is pretty sparse today. So we have our gentleman here from the NRCS.
Yep, so again, I'm Alex Larson. Been coming here now for a little bit, so you guys will probably continue to see me. Lisa has DC calls that are unfortunately every Tuesday morning. So I'll kind of be the one if I'm around and we have stuff to report on that'll come over. So I have some updates, nothing too major since August. For CRP, our program, it's a joint program with FSA, the Conservation Reserve Program. We've been continuing to work on completing conservation plans for the new contracts. These contracts start on October 1st when our new fiscal year turns over. And they run for either 10 or 15 years, depending on the contract themselves. We do have a continuous CRP sign up that is still open. However, we've been told that we're close to our nationwide acreage limit for that window. So it should be closing somewhat soon. We just don't know exactly when. And it's unclear how many new applications that we get still for that sign up period, how many of them will be accepted. For CSP, the Conservation Stewardship Program, we're working on collecting practice completion documentation from participants. We make payments for CSP every fiscal year, so that'll again be an October thing. But up until then, we'll be checking their projects to make sure that every practice is being incorporated before payments go out in October and November. And then for our EQIP program, which is our big window coming up, that's for the Environmental Quality Incentive Program. We've been conducting site visits and taking applications for new projects. This is another week chock full of them. I think we have 5 or 6 between the 3 of us, so we'll be out in the field almost every day this week. And then we've been paying on practices too. That's the other half of our summer workload. So we've paid for livestock pipelines and prescribed grazing project, watering facility for prescribed grazing, brush management for invasive species, nutrient management plan, deer exclosure fences, and prescribed grazing plans going in as well. Our next sign up deadline for that is still November 1st. And that's about it that I have.
Just a question, you mentioned you had a nutrient management plan. Are you getting more new ones yet, or are most in place, or I don't know where you're at with that.
Yep, yeah, whenever somebody wants to do anything that deals with nutrients long-term, the first step is always get a management plan drawn up. So whenever somebody has a plan come through, or if there's a need for a plan that comes through, we help them through that initial process of just getting the plan written up. So this is like a brand new one. I don't know how many more we'll be looking to add or.
We're at, with Stefan's tracking, we're at about 60% countywide. So
You know, I'm just curious, because sometimes these people are asked to do it because they should have been doing it.
Yeah.
And I never know which is which.
And in their EQIP program, there's certain practices that have to do with animal waste that they would have to have a comprehensive nutrient management plan in place to be eligible.
Okay.
So sometimes you see those people sign up a year ahead of time.
Yep.
In preparation for that.
But you're saying about 60%.
60% of the egg fields countywide are covered in the plan at this time, so.
Do you just get a chance to check these out, enough of them to make sure they're following them, or?
The plans themselves, a decent amount. Like he said, anytime they do wanna do anything with animal waste, it's a requirement. So then we're pretty heavy into it. After they get a plan, they can sign up for a nutrient management practice that will constantly track them too, if they get in using that.
Well, let me just take an example where you got, nowadays you got a lot, these large farmers, so you got cross county. I'm just gonna use Tom Rowan for example, who manage, do we do that, or does Outagamie do that?
Both
Cause we've got a
will,
lot of land in Wapaka County.
yeah, so both counties will have his plan. We've gotten better, I think, at tracking which acreage is in which county now. In his case, he's a DNR CAFO, so DNR is also tracking his plan as well as both counties.
Cause you see the trucks out there. but-
Yeah.
Yeah, you do see a lot of, we see farms now that are deep into Outagamie County that have land over here. Seven Oaks, for example, they've got land near Ogdensburg, and they're from, deep into Outagamie
County,
County,
yeah.
so.
I have a CRP question on these renewals.
Mhm.
Wow, is the payment rate the same as the original sign up or is it different?
That I'm unsure about.
Okay,
Yeah. Just based on, I haven't really worked a lot with the renewals
sure.
yet.
I
and
think it changes to the new rate.
I think, yeah, that's what my guess would be,
Okay,
is that Alec would recalculate it based on whatever new rate and the soil typing, and then
sure.
that's the new payment.
The rates go up and down, based on the soil type and recent commodity prices, but they always seem to lag behind a little bit, so. A year or two after prices come back down, the rates may still be high and vice versa.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we don't, that's like the only thing we don't do with CRP is the payment part. We do all the technical assistance, and FSA handles all the financial assistance. So they leave us to do the dirty work, which is fine. We like going out for CRP.
Just one last question, like in the year 2024 now, did you end up getting involved with any manure storage, much new ones? I mean, I
think we had a couple. I guess, I don't know, for 24, I think we had,
The only one we've built here this year is still about to get built here ongoing is state money only, so, that I can think of.
yeah, I don't think we had any. So we had our second sign up, for, yeah, it'd still be 24. So the fall is what we consider our first sign up. That's like our large pool of money. That's all the different types of practices. And then the second sign up starts in around February, March. And the second sign up, and it's for our GLRI money, so it's specific to Great Lakes practices, which are usually water management related, so a lot of the nutrient management falls into that. But I don't think we had any that I can remember got funded through that one.
And if they would have, it's likely too late by the time they get everything signed that they
Yeah.
build anything. And this year it'd be
It'd be
part of
next
an ongoing
summer.
5-year contract.
I think I asked for two reasons. One is you got less and less expansion left to do. And the second is just wondering how the cost control is. It got out of hand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's out of hand. There's no doubt about it. That not only is the cost out of hand, but just getting a contractor lined up is getting to be problematic. You know, there's only a couple of guys that do that kind of concrete work for large storages, you know, and they do other things, mostly freestalls and other egg buildings, so they're booked out usually pretty early in the year. Gets difficult. We're a little bit lucky that one of those is Spiegelberg, and he's, you know, close enough to most of our jobs that he can fit stuff in if he's the low price, but.
And kind of like what Brian alluded to earlier, it's at least like a 2, almost 3-year process sometimes for some of these, because you know, the leading up to even getting the CNMP might be a year. Then once that plan is funded, if it's funded, then you have a whole nother application period to go through, which is another year.
And
And then you
during
have-
that period, staff would have to complete the entire engineering plan.
Yeah. And then you'll have like another year scheduled for implementation. So they're hefty projects that are kind of slow moving at the start.
I didn't realize it took quite that long.
The days of let's go dig a hole are long gone.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
And we have those requirements too for like our forestry practices. Sometimes they require like a forest management plan to be there. But those, we see that they're a little bit faster, but it's still that the first year window is that getting that plan involved, if it's not already. Then the second year is usually when we start incorporating stuff from that plan. Even though we may go out there and already see like invasives or other types of practices that we can do. If that plan isn't there, we have to get that plan involved first.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions?
Praise me.
I wasn't even gonna ask.
I tried.
You used meet yet?
Huh?
How often do you meet?
Every month.
I mean, if you ever want to say something regarding them, go ahead. I mean, I certainly don't wanna
Pretty much, it was all crop reporting last month.
crop reporting.
And I keep getting reminder emails. I need to do a profile because I'm up for reelection.
Hmm.
And I don't like doing stuff like that, so.
You gotta sell yourself.
Will this be the last time for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got 2 terms or 3?
Three.
Three.
And then you gotta be off for 3 and then you can do it again if you want, so. That's probably when you'll do it again, or not.
Or not.
How long does your meetings last?
Oh, man. 3 hours, a lot of times,
Oh,
two
so there is a-
hours, 2 hours for sure. Some are 3, yeah. It wasn't so bad when they were right away in the morning, but now we gotta start them at 10 because Justin is a dairy farmer. And he didn't wanna come that early, so. I like to get stuff over with in the morning.
So that's about all you're gonna share right now?
Really not much, yeah. No scandals, no conflicts, no.
No foreclosures? Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not aware of any conferences that took place since we met in August. Unless somebody else went.
All right, meeting reports, back on August 15th, we had our annual review with our DNR non-point coordinator, and for us, that's kind of a big deal because of all the DNR grants we have. It's about a half a day meeting, with Casey Jones, who's our coordinator. And some additional DNR staff that she brings along. And it's just to review all of our trim grants, mostly our GLRI grant. Some other things, you know, the different notice of discharge actions that are on a few farmers that have in various stages. You know, everything's moving along pretty good for us. Maybe the exception is we have a small scale trim grant that's at the end of its second year for the Blunction farm way up northwest of Clintonville. And that was starting to look like it was about ready to go here. We would file for the third year extension either way for the grant to put it in the next year. However, it appears that his mother left him here, which is his main source of help on the farm. So he's kind of told our staff that he's certainly not gonna be able to pull his project off anymore this year, and I'm not sure that expansion is even in his future anymore, but we'll wait and see. We don't make rash decisions with grants, let them play out. One of the options with that grant, and I guess we'll look at that pretty hard this winter, for those small scale grants are issued to a single farmer, you know, a single named farmer in the application process. But they do allow us to transfer them in the third year to a like project in the same Huck 12 watershed. Well, that would be the Pigeon Lake watershed. So if anybody else needed manure management related activities, we could transfer that grant. So we'll probably look at who's left. You know, the downside of that is we did a handful of those back in 2014 when we had the last pigeon equip and pigeon trim grant up there. So I don't know that there's much left to do in that. That's a $225,000 grant, but we'll have to take a look at it. Otherwise, the only option is the state gets the money back at the end of next year, which is what it is. But if we can find a use for it here, we'd like to do that. So. And then our annual or our monthly demo farms meeting also took place. However, I was deep on a lake in Canada when it happened, so. With very little US cellular reception. I think that was planned well. Moving along, I've got the budget on here as an agenda item, and I'll continue to do that next month, just in case anything crops up. And there is a little something lurking out there. Twyla Kite, who works for NRCS with Alex and Lisa out from Madison, had done an application for us a few months ago for a planning grant for the Pigeon Lake 9 key element plan to be done in the future. And I believe we're gonna find out before the end of this month on those planning grants. So if that would come through, that would be an additional $50,000 that I would probably stick in our budget here. I'd rather do that than have to come back and amend it at finance at a later date. So I think Heidi can probably deal with that up until our first meeting next month, or I would let her know as soon as we found out the problems. If it comes in, I also have to figure out how we're gonna spend it in the budget too, so. And one of the things that's been lurking out there a little bit, and I don't know if anybody's heard, but Jason from Land Information has been trying to look at getting another LiDAR flight in 2025, because there's some grant money out there for that for the whole Wolf Basin, and Ayers and Associates has been trying to put together the Wolf Basin counties to do that flight with a grant application. So we could actually probably use some of our planning grant on that, because we use those contours. We rely on those a lot for 9 key element planning, so no action needed, I guess, today on the budget, but we'll still have it there next month, I guess. Our Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance, I think I mentioned last month that I would contract that for now. And let's see if we can, so I've done that with Wally Sedlar, who's worked for us in the past doing nutrient management stuff. This is basically the same independent contractor agreement we use for the person that we contract with for the Upper Fox Wolf Demonstration Farm Network position. But basically I did a 6-month contract here to implement the work in that grant. You know, the real details are here. It's a $50 an hour, but it's not to exceed 900 hours. And basically what I did there is, you know, we've got just slightly over 3 years to spend that almost $300,000 worth of money. So I just kind of divided it into 6-month increments and put a maximum on here so that we don't run ourselves out of money in this contract. And we would have enough to either extend it next year or hire a full-time staff person. So otherwise, it's just a lot of all the same language that Diane created for the last one. So we have that signed, but I guess I thought the committee should probably approve that as well.
So that was the main change.
What's that?
That's the main change.
Yeah, the only thing I changed is the dollars and cents and the guy's name and address in this and the dates that it's effective, so. Otherwise, it's the same agreement we've been using for 6 years with the demo farm network, so. Basically, we refer in the services rendered paragraph here to the services and deliverables outlined in attachment number 1, which is the Fox Wolf sub-award agreement, so. There's the deliverables and the things this employee needs to do are detailed in pages 5 through 8 of that agreement, basically. We're gonna rely on Wally to kind of be our main contact with Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance, because they've got a lot of spreadsheet paperwork that goes along with this project, so.
Okay, I guess we'll need action on that.
I'll make that motion.
Second it.
Any other discussion? Just my only other question is if this takes place, this will be over 3 years, you said?
Well, this agreement's only for 6 months, but if we continue in February, we'll have to make a decision on whether we're gonna continue with Wally or whether we wanna hire
Individual.
a person to be a county employee for the remaining almost 3 years left, so. I guess the benefit of Wally here is he is a CCA certified agronomist.
Oh, he's up and ready to go.
Yeah, he's ready to go. We already went to a couple of meetings with Fox Wolf to get, you know, trained on the paperwork a little bit, and we can send him out and start working with farmers tomorrow. I mean, that's kind of been my reservation with this all along, is there's just a lot of work here that's leans towards a more experienced certified crop consultant type person, so. And it's pretty hard to find that as I look around at the other counties and who they filled, I think 1 or 2 of them found some experienced people. Winnebago found a guy that was an agronomist in the private sector who was looking to get out, but otherwise it's just mostly all new hires out of school, and that's, you know, they can learn to do the paperwork quick, but then to work with the farmers and talk takes a little longer, in my opinion.
Any other questions?
Where's Wally from?
Fremont.
Nice and cool.
Call a question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried.
Okay, we have a lot of cost share agreements. Like to have sent this out a little bit ahead of time, but you guys still don't have emails yet, but these are going to be the cover crop cost share agreements that are ready to go. we're kind of rounding up and using maximum acres this year a little bit to make the contracting easier. And then you see the funding sources here. The SWRM is the money from DAT cap. GLRI BL would be the funding we have in Bear Lake. And then we've got a number of other trim grants here. TRM SC is a Shaw Creek grant. So there's 5 or 6 different funding sources that we're doing cover cropping with. The big change is that SWRM, the DAT cap money, with the recent changes to our ATCP 50, they brought the rates up to $60 an acre, which matches our county rates and all these other programs. Which is good. They were at $25 an acre. I mean, farmers will take what they can get, but the $60 is a little closer to covering the actual costs. Now, the interesting part of their programming is they're gonna actually make us extend these contracts over into next year and check to make sure that the crops are terminated in the spring, because their wording for the $60 an acre is to include termination costs, which could be spraying or disking or could be roller crimping as well, I guess, but.
Is
So
there time deadline for the termination?
No, there's no time deadline. I mean, obviously, it's gonna happen prior to spring planting or at spring planting, but, I'm not fond of that. That's gonna make a messy paperwork situation to carry over another 10 or 15 contracts and then have to go out and do some verification on them in the spring. Normally, we get all that verification done before the first snow here, whenever that might be. And we're done with it. We get them paid out and reimbursed and we're over and done. And it's not that we don't carry over DAT cap contracts every year, but they're usually for nutrient management, because soil tests couldn't be taken or something of that nature. But now we're gonna have a lot more of that. It is what it is. I'm glad they raised their rate to kind of get with the rest of the programs. EQIP offers similar, if not a little bit better rates, but they're all in that same range so that farmers aren't necessarily trying to cherry pick programs if they have options. So we have this list of people that would need cost share agreement approval. And as well as that, we have 3 other cost share agreements. Andy and Emily Hittle, who are on the old Bauer Brothers farm, West River Road, are looking at a manure storage abandonment with DAT cap funding. We've got Jaime and Mariana Gonzalez with that manure storage going on in the Waiwega Lake trim. That'll be the final project there, hopefully to spend up most of that money. That's a $300,000 storage. And then we're gonna have Lee Worth doing a little bit more underground outlets to go with those big basins you see on the Highway 22 up there. That's about 5,000. So quite a few cost share agreements. We'll probably have another list in October here for some straggling cover crop contracts.
question,
Why is there a dot by that one? What does that mean?
A dot.
That one there?
I guess because we haven't established the acreage or stuff. The Stefan prints this right off of our tracking program, so
Oh, okay.
can't tell you what their acreage is, but maybe we'll see this one back next month.
can you have, like Tammy was saying there, is that the number of
Yeah, that's acreage.
of what's going to be cover crop?
Yes.
I noticed Holman's there at about 700.
Yeah, and that's, we're gonna run into a little bit of problem with swarm funding. We're gonna run out of funding before we can pay. We've got him and about 4 or 5 others and we're gonna have to make a decision on how we cut that short, if we're just gonna apply a percentage of those contracts or if it all comes out of Dick Piaski's contract. I'm not sure. I think to be fair, we'll probably take a percentage, but I think we're only gonna be able to cover about 85% of what we have contracted there. Unless we get funding from another county, which is very possible. We start to see money coming through from other counties because historically this pot of money was only used for nutrient management planning, and a lot of counties aren't using it for that. And there's a few counties that suck up as much as they can, you know, the Dane County, Marathon County, ones that are really pushing their nutrient management generally through enforcement, like Marathon is, then they'll take all the money they can get as well, but we'll, in the next month, we'll certainly raise our hand if we can bring some of that extra money into this county, so.
Do you need approval of all of this?
Yeah, I would just do it all.
One
at
motion?
Once, yeah.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Just one last question. What happens if the fall messes everything up and you can't get it all?
It's.
I mean, you know what I'm.
Yeah, it's very possible, you know, most of these cover crops, with the exception of one or two, like Dan Burst, are for single species overwintering crop, which is generally rye, might be wheat. And the rye is the most flexible. It has a October 15th seeding deadline, which NRCS almost always extends out to October 31st.
Oh,
At least they have in all the years we've been doing this in the last 4 or 5. So, you know, we've essentially got till Halloween to get these things in the ground and hope to see some growth and germination on them. And, you know, we've had some better falls, we've had some worse ones, but I don't think we've had any total failures, but it could happen if we get early snow and really early cold. You know, it's possible NRCS wouldn't extend the deadline. You know, we follow all of their practice standards, so, you know, the cutoff could be October 15th, which would certainly mean a lot of these acres don't get implemented. And if they don't get implemented, they just don't get paid. That's how it's written in the contracts, so.
Majority of them are probably following corn silage.
Yes, yeah, or soybeans, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost all of this is corn silage or soybeans. The dairies are mostly corn silage, so those,
they'll get in.
they'll get in. The beans kind of depends on weather and when things come off.
And like Dick Piaski, it could be,
Some of his are vegetables.
yeah,
Yeah.
so he's probably got a few fields open already.
Right.
So,
Yeah, he said as much when he came in last week to start filling out paperwork, so.
I know when I was still lending money, there was one individual toward Pulaski. And it worked out, but they told him as long as it sprouted in the ground, it was okay, and he planted it on November 1st. It did sprout on the ground. It didn't come up, but it's,
We were running into, cause we had an extension last year. And obviously it never really got to be like the harsh winter that we usually have. We had a couple people we were estimating planting into November. And then the way that, I don't know if you guys do it too, but like we can go out all winter if we really needed to. So like if we don't see anything late fall. And then all of a sudden we get a call and it's a similar situation where we didn't really have the snow cover and they're like middle of January, they say, oh, you can see the grass is up. We go out and we check. At a certain time, we will say you gotta wait until spring, but with how mild it was last winter, Ben and I did a cover crop check. I think it was like beginning of January. We went out. And ours, we have to just make the call if, you know, what's there is up to our standard, yeah. We had a couple that we could see them, they were about yay big in late November, early December, and we're like, we have to wait until spring, cause this isn't doing anything right now. But then we can always pay them in the spring too, when
if
it's there, yeah.
Okay, any other questions for your call? Question, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, hearing none, motion's carried.
All right. My report for other things that are going on here, still working on that notice of discharge with Kriegers up in DuPont. I've been working on a conservation easement, which we'll see come through maybe next meeting, or November for Helen and Ed Adams over in Caledonia. We had a number of manure complaints, about 2 weeks back during some rain, New London area. Egan's, ours, Madden's, all had just spread and, Egan's had some issue with some runoff getting in a private pond and killing some fish, but that's DNR follows up on that because they're CAFO. The issue going on with Grady Hour has been kind of ongoing, you know, we built manure storage there 2017, I think it was. And it was quite a bit of storage, more than he needed, you know, 10 months of storage, but he's gotten into the situation where he hasn't emptied the sand out of it in quite some time, and that manure storage has overflowed at least 3 times this year. Once earlier in the spring, and then once on August 8th, and again here on August 26th. And I went out, actually it was prior to August 8th, I went out on the 8th with DNR to do a site inspection, and they're fairly upset about it because of the state funding that went into it. So, you know, basically he's been through the whole process where he had an offer of cost share to make the new manure storage, and he used it. And now we're back in this position where there's overflow and getting into wetlands near the farm. And I know prior to me leaving for vacation in Canada, they had asked if I would talk to Corp Council about issuing citation through our ordinance. Well, by the time I got back, DNR has decided they're issuing citation there for the event. And then they were out on August 26th again. So I think the event will be the August 26th one that they issue citation for, but they've just kind of gotten fed up with the management there, so. That'll be the first in a while. I mean, the last time DNR issued a citation in our county for ag waste related stuff was Friendship Valley 10 years ago, so.
In his case, I mean, in all due respect, we had more water, I mean, rain, but did he have some field to put it on, or just?
No, and well, the problem goes back a little further, you know, he hasn't emptied the sand out from the sand bedding.
That takes care of volume.
And he's lost a lot of capacity, so I think his true capacity is down to a couple million gallons, and he probably needs 6 to 8 to get through 6 months of the year. So therefore, you know, every time a field comes open, some rye or wheat comes off, you know, they try to get a hauler in and get 1 million gallons out here and 1 million gallons out there. And that's kind of what's been going on in the last few months. But, you know, and then the haulers may not show up on time either because they're busy, and that creates some problem. Then all of a sudden you get a rain, which we've gotten several heavy rains in the New London area there. But I know he's now bought some spreaders to get his sand out himself for this fall. But, you know, that's a real problem with the sand laden manure from bedding is getting that stuff out. And some farmers empty it out every fall, and some try to go a couple of falls without doing that, but that's where they start to run into trouble, and it's expensive. You know, oftentimes you're hiring an excavator to come with a backhoe and dump trucks to move that stuff out to the fields, or at least a backhoe or a payloader to fill V-bottom or solid spreaders to move that stuff out.
Cause a lot of them went away from sand as a result of it.
Well,
Some did.
for a while, but
Now
we're
they're
pretty
back.
much back, you know, every significant dairy farm that we work with is on sand bedding, you know, even Quantum for years had their digester and used the digested biosolids to bed with, but you know, they had that fire that burnt their digester up, and instead they went back to a sand separation unit because you know, their veterinarians tell them get back on sand. There's too many issues with cell count and health when they're on non-sand bedding, so.
You know what the long-term effects are with that sand? I mean, the amount you put back onto the soil, is there any negatives or? I don't know.
We haven't seen it. I mean, most of the farms are, you know, in this county are on a Hortonville soil for the most part, so they're adding sand to a relatively clayey soil, but you know, what do they always tell us? 5 tons of erosion to the acre is the width of a piece of paper, so when you think about that, you know, there's probably be hundreds of years before you see any significant change to the soil type.
Well, good.
I hope by then we find something besides sand bedding.
They spread sand on the road and eventually ditches get full. I mean, they've been fighting the ditches being clean now for 20 years. You know, I mean, so it's there. I mean,
That's, you know, really about it. We're kind of still, haven't heard a lot about the building construction issue in the last few weeks, other than we had to, department heads had to submit a email, you know, kind of discussing how much space we need for the relocation. You know, my understanding is we're looking at east half and west half for construction, which means a fair amount of people are gonna get displaced. You know, I've got about half the staff that can efficiently work from home, especially in the winter time. Summer, everybody kind of needs to be here, but they're generally out of the building most, you know, during the day a lot, but my answer was we kind of need space for about 2/3 of the staff for either those of us that'll be here all the time or those of us that'll rotate in and out from working at home. As well as Jennifer that we share with Parks, you know, she's really probably needs to stay in the building here because most of the things she does for all 3 departments are customer service interaction type of stuff, so. I think John's planning on moving the whole Parks Department up to the PTF Park Shop area, which will work good for them, but you know, they're not, Jennifer would take care of their customer service needs in the building here yet, so.
as far as I know, they don't have a date yet.
No, and I haven't heard which half is going first. I mean, I think we're kind of all waiting to hear that, so.
I'm kind of anxious.
I mean, it's been thrown around that February would be the start time, but that we would need to be packed up and out of our spaces maybe by the end of the year, if east side is first, we're east side, so.
They talked about using the fairgrounds too.
Yeah, I know John's been looking into some of that. You know, the problem is there's only like a building and a half that have heat and stuff for winter use. I know there's been talk of putting people at the highway shop. There's also, I believe there's empty offices and fiber optic up in Manawa at whatever the sheriff now has, the old Wapaka Industries buildings, so. There's places to go, but I don't know how that'll all work yet. So. And it's been somewhat quiet here for the last 3 or 4 weeks about it.
Okay. Did you want to talk about this thing?
Yeah, there should be a sheet on your desk with the summer tour for the Land and Water Association. This would have went to your county emails that you can't get to, so I thought I'd print a copy, but Marquette is hosting the tour on Friday, September 20th, and it's gonna be to Gums Farms, which is a vegetable muck farm. I think they hosted a tour there probably 10 to 15 years ago, and my understanding is Gums have gotten into a lot of other stuff since then, so. If anybody's interested in that tour, we would need to be down to the Marquette building about 9 o'clock. I can take people from here, or you can drive yourself. I just would need a head count coming up probably by the end of this week or so, for the lunch and stuff, and then usually these things are in the morning, and then we have lunch and our half hour of our business meeting, and we're done around 1 o'clock-ish, so.
You know if Gums still does mint? Do they do mint?
I do believe they do, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I asked Pat Kilby, my counterpart over there, what exactly we're looking at, and he said, yeah, mint and other veggies, and now they're marketing and packaging and apparently doing a lot of other stuff they never used to do, so. So if anybody wants to do that, maybe let me know by the end of the week here.
When was that highway one? It was towards the end of the month, was it the?
It's, yeah, I think it's a little later, but I'm not sure on the date now either.
I didn't,
Might be the next week, but I'm not, I'd have to look. That's at Stratford, I think.
yeah,
Otherwise, our next first Tuesday would be October 1st.
We'll be gone yet. huh? Dennis and I won't be home yet.
All right, so are we backing that up or
Where are you guys going?
Vacation.
Huh?
you're gone too?
Well, maybe we should go to next week then.
Yeah, because now we got quorum issues almost. so. However, the second Tuesday,
Is law enforcement and zoning.
Right.
That doesn't start till 10:30. That would
Law
probably,
enforcement's
Law
9.
enforcement's at 9.
what?
Law enforcement is 9.
who's on, you're on law enforcement?
Would that Monday work that day of the week or not? I know we went away from Monday was it because of you, Tammy?
No, was it because of me?
I think it was just Labor Day.
We went away from first Monday because
Yeah.
HR meets and took our 8 o'clock spot. Second Monday at 8 or 8:30 should be fine, I would think.
Yeah, I've got one at 10, but that should be
Yeah,
So that second Monday or two, what are you looking at now,
Second
Tuesday or
Monday.
Monday?
that'd be
Second
Monday the
Monday's the
7th.
No,
Yeah, because
that'd be the-
otherwise Tuesday would mess up everybody
That's the
else.
first Monday.
Yeah, it's because the Tuesday is the first, so that would be the first Monday. Also, HR is gonna meet that day then.
more than likely, because we gotta,
But we meet later.
We would have to meet at 10 o'clock-ish.
Well, we have been meeting now lately at 10.
well.
Oh, really?
Human Resources is scheduled next week at 8:30.
Yeah, it is, but we have already met
Yeah.
later too.
Well, we can, no, it don't matter.
Does anybody else have committee meetings that day?
Monday the 7th, no.
I have a meeting with a cabbage harvester.
Just-
Pardon me?
I have a meeting with a cabbage harvester that morning.
Yeah.
What time?
Usually start at 7, but
You want me to consult with Mandy on what time
mean-
she's going? or-
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure we can make. And. Got this one early.
8:30.
It works better early, Tammy?
I can't get here until 8:30.
Or
At
for
least
Greg, you want it
8:30.
later that day?
no, I just soon have early.
Okay.
Sounds like the plan, 8:30. Resources
day?
will have to go at 10.
Pardon me?
What are we talking?
I think the first Monday.
7.
So the 7th, okay.
Yes, Monday the 7th, all right.
At 8:30?
Okay.
We'll make HR work after that.
I'm gonna throw you guys under the bus on this.
Well, I end up sharing both of them, so I think we can.
You got, see, the legislature judicial too at 10
On a Monday?
on a Monday.
I'm not part of that, so I,
Oh, you're not on that, well, then we should.
What is that?
Is anyone else?
Legislature.
Oh, LJS.
I'm not on that one,
I'm
so
not either.
I don't think none of us are.
Aren't you, are you on the legislative?
But that's the second.
He's not an he's not an HR.
Yeah, so he'll be
I'm
able
not
to come. Yeah, that meeting will be after Land and Water.
Yeah, usually Ledge was on the second. What day is it on
Second, it's
there?
a second,
On the
so that
9th.
would be the
Well, it's-
14th.
it's scheduled on the 9th right now.
Right, but that'll be the 14th next month, so, yeah, okay. We're fine there.
Yeah, we'll be okay. Well,
Good grief.
yeah, really. Okay, anything else before? we adjourn? Okay, be in order to adjourn, I guess.
Motion to adjourn.